Welcome into No Punt Intended, presented by Club Fantasy. I am back. 2-week hiatus. Your boy, Joe Zollo, back in the host chair. I don't know what happened in the intros beforehand. I have not had the chance to listen back to either of those shows. I just know it was horrible, and I apologize for any inconveniences you have experienced in the last 2 weeks. Those will not be happening this week. Lessons learned from 2024. Oh boy, do we have a lot of those. There is a healthy mix of that. We want to hear your lessons learned as well as we go throughout the show. Let's get into it. Welcome into No Punt Intended, presented by Club Fantasy. I'm your host, Joe Zollo. All three back together. This is what the offseason looks like. Get used to three white guys on your screen, something you've never seen before in fantasy football media.
You keep shit-talking my intros, and maybe there's only going to be two of us here.
You should talk your own intros. I don't know what.
Joe. I will say this, for all the shit that Joe gives us in his intros, that comes off really seamless. And I will applaud you, Joe, because I cannot think like that off my dome.
I don't think of anything before. Nothing is written down. I know everything is on the spot.
Trust me, I know. You have no lessons put in on the show sheet.
So. I have not read the show sheet until right now. Like I promise you, I did not know what the show was called until I looked at the first line on the show sheet.
Well, then I will give you kudos. I'm not going to ever.
All of my preparation for nothing, it feels like.
I don't need prep. I don't need prep.
You are the best at intros, especially knowing that you were reading the show sheet and figuring out what the show was about as you were doing the intro. I have to mentally prep mine, but I will say, Joe, my intros are far better than when I used to fill in for you because I host so many fucking shows now. So.
Practice makes perfect.
Exactly.
I'm happy. Some of my magic dust is rubbing off on you. Before we dive into anything, Adrian, these were buy one get one free for $35 at Michael's.
Rub it in.
Yeah. So I would this is not a joke. Look at Michael's. They're almost always buy one get one.
Are they specifically made shadow boxes for jerseys, or are they?
It's just a shadow box.
Yeah, that's what I thought it might be.
They make them in different sizes. I've looked at Michael's as well. My problem is so I just got for Christmas. I got a signed Kelly Green Eagles Randall Cunningham jersey.
Nice.
And that name is so long that I'm I don't know where I'm going to find the right size for this from a shadow box. So,
well, if you can see Ricky Williams, the R is cut off in Ricky and the 34 up there and the burnt orange. So, yes, Michaels makes big ones that you can fully lay out the jersey, but these honestly, they were 2 for $35.
If you want to send some money our way.
Yeah. I don't know how you're making money, Michael, but if you could send it to us your way, we would appreciate that.
Obviously.
All right. We still have some fun little stuff in the afterlife, also known as the off-season. Trophy Smack. You still need to buy a ring for your champion. You still need to buy a golden turd for your loser. You can go do that. Promo code WOFF at checkout. And get a free ring with the purchase of a belt or trophy. Can we also call them and include a golden tainted turd? You get a free ring as well. Can that be put on?
If they make it in a ring, sure.
Sure.
Yeah, you buy a championship belt, buy a trophy when you use promo code WOFF, WOFF at checkout. Make sure you add the ring to your cart, and you can get it for free. So I got this one. Got it for free when I bought the Sneaky Girls.
Are we all grabbing our rings right now? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah. That's what we're
I have
doing.
my wedding ring.
I'll be back.
Joe's got his wedding ring too, so I don't have one of those, so I have to get a Trophy Smack ring.
There you go.
No. I have something far better. A 2018 Boston Red Sox World Series ring. Same one.
Nothing good about that. I'm sorry, Joe.
Yeah, well, it has my last name on it because I worked for the team. And yes, those are real diamonds.
I have been doing this show with Joe for 5 years now and never had any idea about any of this.
In case anybody was wondering, yes, there are 181 diamonds for the 181 games played that season.
That's fucking cool, Joe.
I'm surprised you didn't know that. Yes, I worked for the Red Sox. I have a ring. So, Vince, I was going to say something nice, but go fuck yourself. And thank you for your money, and I hope you keep watching.
Vince, I'm with you. Boo Red Sox.
Let's go Rays. That's like chanting "Let's go Raiders." Like nobody hates you, but like nobody likes you at the same time.
I just want to know how
I
Vince
am
lives
blue.
in Australia and says "Go Rays" because I live right outside Tampa Bay and I don't even root for the Rays.
Well, he says "Go Rays" the same way as us. They speak English down there.
Yeah.
There's no change.
Plus, the Rays don't even have a home anymore, so fuck
No,
them.
they don't. They're playing at the Yankees spring training facility.
Yeah.
Yes, they are.
Hilarious to me.
All right.
Yankee Stadium.
We have some notes because I feel like it's been this feels like way more active coaching, hiring much earlier on in the playoff process.
Because Detroit got eliminated and they had the two hottest candidates.
Just solves everything, yeah.
Yes, and that checks out. But it felt like everything domino affected very, very quickly for a lot of these teams. So starting with the Falcons hiring former Jets interim head coach and defensive coordinator Jeff Ulbrich as their new DC. Just what they needed.
Yeah, that's
just what they needed.
You know, the one part of the Jets that fell the fuck apart when they fired Robert Zollo.
Yeah. Just what, hey, listen, they already hired a mediocre defensive coordinator to be their head coach. Why not hire a worse defensive coordinator to coach your defense? That's a good job. The Bears named Lions OC Ben Johnson as the new head coach. That's a layup.
For them.
Yeah, that was a layup.
That was a home run hire for them. I mean, Ben Johnson was always going to go. Well, Ben Johnson was always going to go where he had at least a quarterback, right? Yeah. Caleb Williams, number 1 overall pick. You can say what you want about his rookie season, all the issues that they had. The Bears have cap space. They have draft capital. They can improve this team to at least fit within what Ben Johnson wants to do with Caleb Williams at quarterback. And I already love the trash talk going back and forth already between Amon-Ra St. Brown and Ben Johnson. I think this is going to be a lot of fun.
It just feels to me, and what makes me happy, it seems like they'll give Ben Johnson time. Like this feels like a marquee hire for them to where it's not going to be the one and done that I'm dealing with in the NFL right now that just drives me insane. So
that's because there's so many poorly run franchises, not just from, GMs and presidents. It's from the ownership. And that, like, we'll get to the Jaguars here in a little bit, but like that is a prime example. The Cowboys are giving a second interview to Brian Schottenheimer for their head coach position.
With Johnson, you have to let him play out Caleb's rookie contract.
Yeah, absolutely.
You have to. And I guess maybe at least get to year 4, and then maybe if he's not doing well, you bring in somebody else for the 5th year option to see if Ben Johnson was the problem or not. But for the love of God, do not fire this kid going after two years. Like, your team sucks, dude. Like,
Ben Johnson's happy to have a quarterback. That's what he's feeling right now.
Yeah.
So go him. Colts named former Bengals DC Lou Anarumo as their defensive coordinator, so the Colts will have a win against the Chiefs if they ever play them. So that's cool. The Vikings announced contract extension for Kevin O'Connell. Yep. And Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah. I don't know exactly how to say his last name, but also working on extension for him. They both done a fantastic job with the Vikings.
Yeah.
They'll never win a playoff game. Literally will never win a playoff game.
14 win seasons in the last 3 years.
Bro,
with how many playoff wins? How many playoff wins?
Got to start somewhere.
If they lose Flores, they are going to take the hardest step back because that team overperformed so well.
They're taking a hard left turn off the freeway bridge into the ocean.
But I feel like the one team that Flores was most linked to was the Jets.
Yeah.
Now that's off the board.
To me, the Vikings are out here extending everybody. They need to get Flores to stick the fuck around. Yeah.
Paid. Yep. The Patriots, I wasn't here for this. They hired Mike Vrabel. And then they also hired Josh McDaniels, which I said from day one that was going to be the hire. Before Vrabel was even the fucking coach, I said Josh McDaniels will come back and be the offensive coordinator. Yeah. I was saying it once he left and was not hired by was fired by the Raiders. It was going to happen.
Yep.
Easy money. I'm okay with it. A lot of people aren't. I'm okay with it. If you can make Mac Jones a Pro Bowler, you can do anything.
That's what I'm saying. McDaniels coming in to work with Drake May at this stage of his career is awesome. So.
I don't mind it. They're saying Vrabel and McDaniels will butt heads. We'll see. Jets name Aaron Glenn as the new head coach. Did not know Aaron Glenn played for the Jets, so he is the fifth
That's where
NFL
he was actually
coach.
drafted by the Jets.
Yeah.
Yep, fifth NFL coach to now be coaching for a former team he played for. So that's pretty cool. The Raiders named Bucs assistant GM John Spytek, that's a sick name, as their GM. Has ties to Tom Brady going all the way back to Michigan.
Oh yeah, Spytek.
They played with each other at Michigan in
Nice.
1999, and Spytek was a big reason why Brady chose Tampa after he left the Patriots.
All right. Liam Cohen, speaking of the Bucs, withdraws from the Jaguars coaching search and signs an extension in Tampa.
Crazy.
Because
this has Ben Johnson written all over it, right? Like Ben Johnson has been like the hot candidate the last couple of years heading into the head coaching cycle, and then ultimately comes back to Detroit because now he got to kind of pick his location. I feel like we're seeing a very similar track here with Liam Cohen.
I think Liam Cohen realizes that he's probably not ready. That roster is dog shit. They can't really do much with it. They're already paying a bad quarterback $55 million a year. So why would I go there when I
don't
could...
disagree.
Yeah.
I don't disagree. But
he did
I'm just
the
saying,
smart
like,
thing.
head coaching opportunities only come around so much, like especially good openings.
I was going to say,
it's not a
and
good
the Jags
opening.
aren't that. Exactly.
Yeah, it's
like,
not a
I
good
agree with
opening.
you, Josh. And I think Liam Cohen's looking at the environment that makes me so pissed that he's going to go to the Jags and get fired after one fucking year and then be stuck being a coordinator for another 3 years. So why not pick your spot? Ben Johnson did this the right way. Ben Johnson likely landed at a job where he is safe for 3 years. That's what I'd be looking for. So,
And with that, the Jaguars fired Trent Baalke. I mean, literally, Cohen said bye, and then the
100%.
Jaguars said bye to Baalke within minutes. The
I think
reports came within minutes.
I think Cohen mentioned he didn't want to work with Baalke, and I think Shad was tired of hearing it. So
Everybody and their mother was preaching, if you're going to fire Peterson, you need to get rid of Baalke. Baalke has now hired 2 head coaches, and both of them burnt out. Because remember, he hired Urban Meyer also.
Yeah.
And that was an epic failure. And
Who,
then
who
3
could have
years
seen that
in,
coming?
Right?
Nobody on
Like,
this show.
Baalke has not, and of all of the one and done head coaches over the last 12 years, Trent Baalke has hired 3 of them.
Yep, exactly.
Stop and think about that for a second.
Good?
That is not a good GM.
That's not good. Okay.
Not to mention after you went and got your franchise fucking quarterback and you make these mistakes. Like, come the fuck on.
Well, he also signed the franchise quarterback to $55 million a year.
I'm not going to hold Trevor Lawrence. Can Trevor Lawrence play better? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But he was not given a recipe for success.
He also shouldn't have been given $55 million a year.
I mean, that's the league.
Sure. Yeah. Hey, shout out Green Bay. You and Jordan Love are going to be a fantastic NFC divisional bounce for the next 10 seasons. It's going to be so much fun for you guys. Can't wait. Matt LaFleur is going to be the most meaty. He's going to be Mike McCarthy 2.0. He will get to the playoffs and then shit the fucking bed. You want to know why? Because his quarterback's a head case. Jordan Love has a personality, unlike...
Somebody needs to just put in the locker room right before games, it's Toyota-thon week. Every single week. Just to convince him that it's a year-round thing.
Or don't throw interceptions. I think that should be...
But that's my point. He doesn't throw them during Toyota-thon.
It's the best. It's the most wonderful
He has
time
like
of year.
28 interceptions or 28 touchdowns and 5 interceptions during Toyota-thon. Non-Toyota-thon, it's like 29 touchdowns and 28 interceptions.
Toyota, if you would like to give us some money.
Right?
Give us a car.
Yeah.
Company car. It would be great. I see all these TikTok gurus tell me I need a car that weighs over X amount of pounds, and then I use it for 100% business opportunities. Yeah, I drive back and forth to my business meeting at Subway, so that counts as a business expense, right? Government, right?
You need your G-Wagon, baby.
Yeah, right? That's what they're saying. That's not
I know.
Toyota, sadly.
No.
But,
certainly not.
G-Wagon, RAV4. I mean, they're the same thing when you think about it. They both have 4 doors and 4 wheels and an engine.
There you go.
It's the exact same car. All right, lessons learned from 2024. Just don't play
Toyota
fantasy football. There's 2. Bet on Jordan Love during Toyota-thon week and stop playing fantasy football. Stop listening to the show. That's
We were not bad. What the fuck?
No, we weren't bad. Fantasy football was just bad. Why? Why do we do this to ourselves? We say this every week. Why do we do this to ourselves? Right? One quarterback over 400 fantasy points. Cool. Like, why? Who allowed that to happen? Wasn't there like 7 3 years ago?
No. There's been all of 3. Wait, hang on. 1, 2, 3.
You got it. Do math.
5 quarterbacks since 2013 or since 2001 that have scored over 400 points. Manning back in 2013, Mahomes in 2018, Lamar in 2019, Josh Allen in 2021, and Mahomes in 2022. So Lamar now has 2 400-point seasons. This is the most amount of fantasy points scored ever in the quarterback position.
Wow. Was
this year. And he was the only one to score over 400.
And in those years combined, he's 0-2 in the playoffs. So
we're not playing fantasy football in the fucking playoffs, Joe.
Some people are. I'm just saying. At this point, we're judging Lamar in January.
Yeah. To be fair, I built a lot of my playoff rosters around Lamar and Derrick Henry. It's not looking great right now.
Yeah. Also, the fact Peyton Manning did 410 in a 4-point passing touchdown scoring.
Yeah.
And he never ran the football.
Right.
Is insane.
Really I think that was the year he had 55 passing touchdowns.
That was when Julius Thomas was relevant.
Yeah.
And he signed a big deal with the Jaguars and did nothing ever again. Malik Jackson on that defense. Another Jaguar from the Broncos did nothing on that. Peyton Manning single-handedly just made that team.
And he did it like out of spite almost, it felt like, where
Fully.
Like nobody thought he could do it.
And what did he do in the Super Bowl? Shit the bed. Another great regular season quarterback that can't play in the playoffs.
Yeah, but he at least has 2 Super Bowls.
I
mean, he got carried to the second one, but still.
I mean, that was the worst offensive performance of any team in the Super Bowl ever. They had under 200 yards. Speaking of fewer,
you guys held the Rams to 3 points.
They had a better offensive performance than the Denver Broncos. Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Also, thanks for shouting out the Patriots. Appreciate that, buddy. 6 of the top 12 scorers at the quarterback position. Speaking of guys that can't run. Or not that can't run, just didn't. Fewer than 400 yards. Burrow, who if had any resemblance of a team around him and Jamar Chase, maybe undefeated this season because they were just dropping 40 points a week with ease. Mayfield, another guy who is either 40 or 10. Goff, Darnold, Herbert, Mahomes. Jared Goff and Sam Darnold just, back to pumpkins. I love it.
I wanted to put that stat in there because I feel like 400 rushing yards is kind of that like benchmark for, look, these are the guys that likely are going to score, in the top 12 at the quarterback position.
It is an interesting stat that we always say value the run game for a quarterback. And obviously, Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. Duh. But I wouldn't say it played as much of a factor this season as it has in previous years.
When I was digging into the stats, I'm kind of going to go the other way with it, but we'll get to that in a minute. So
9 QBs scored more than 300 fantasy points, the most since 2021. And teams threw the ball. Who's pulling these dumb fucking
That
stats?
would be Ryan. I didn't pull this one.
Okay, guys. Teams in the NFL threw 17,811 times last season. That's 504 fewer than in 2023. And the least the last 6 seasons, which includes 2 16-game seasons. Also, Pro Football Focus ranked Emmanuel fucking Wilson higher than Saquon Barkley. That feels like a fucking Pro Football Focus stat. God.
I was digging in for my comps, and I thought it was interesting that they threw
Were
the
you?
ball. Yeah. I dig into this.
Stop digging. You did not find gold. You found more dirt.
That the NFL threw the ball less and still threw 500 more touchdowns than last year?
Yes.
That's not interesting to you?
No, because
55 more touchdowns, right?
Oh, 55 more touchdowns.
Because
Like
defenses
500. What?
500. Jesus Christ.
Because defenses suck.
For people who do projections, Joe, that's very interesting.
So I don't care.
Yeah, we're the nerds here, Joe.
I'm also a nerd. The nerds told you that Emmanuel Wilson's a better fucking running back than Saquon Barkley.
No, they said that he graded higher.
Which is nerd talk.
I agree.
That's a nerd stat.
And that's coming from somebody that obviously is an Eagles fan and thinks that the grading system is asinine.
Yeah, that's a nerd stat.
I don't pay attention to any gradings except for offensive linemen, just because how the fuck else are you going to judge them?
Your eyes.
I don't have time to watch all that shit.
Your eyes. Oh, all right, Ryan. You dug up this dumb shit. What did you learn?
So for me, everyone's going to focus on the rushing, but it feels like everybody runs a little bit now. When you look at the top 12 quarterbacks, top 15 quarterbacks, only 2 of them had fewer than 200 rushing yards. Like, everybody is running the ball now. But when you start to look at who's performing well in fantasy, it's more about the passing attempts. And this is in 4-point scoring, which should favor running quarterbacks. 17 quarterbacks threw the ball more than 450 times last year, and all but one of them finished in the top 20. I use top 20 because there's 17 of them. Jalen Hurts is the only top 10 quarterback who had fewer than 450 attempts. And obviously he got it done with his running. The long and short is, and it kind of leads to Josh's point, but the long and short is you may want to start focusing on the teams that are just going to throw the ball a ton. It seems like that's where the fantasy production is coming from. So
yeah, I mean, that's why, we hype up Dak Prescott every year, right? Because we know he's going to throw the football 650 times.
Yeah.
And probably throw 30 touchdowns when he doesn't get hurt.
Are we ready to talk about...
This year's been a revelation for the average quarterbacks that don't run.
Yeah. But the thing is, as I pointed out, though, don't run used to be 100 to 150 yards. That nobody's doing that anymore. Everybody's rushing for 200 to 250. And I understand that's not like life.
I was going to say that's like 1.4 additional fantasy points a game.
I agree, but I'm just saying everybody's doing it now. We used to have some straight up statues like we saw out of like Aaron Rodgers and Kirk Cousins. And that is not the game anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, they're definitely going away. I agree.
But
that's why, like I said, that's why I put that 400 yard as kind of the benchmark, because those are the ones that typically are.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was trying to figure out mathematically what number I would want to use, because I was even thinking 500. But I think there was only like 4. There was only there were so few who did it this year. It's interesting. Go ahead, Joe.
I just was saying, we're ready to talk about how Jalen Hurts has regressed to his Alabama form at quarterback.
First off, did you watch him at Alabama? Because he was a fucking stud. He won a national championship, never completed less than 63% of his passes, and when he went to Oklahoma, finished second in the Heisman voting.
And that's why I said Alabama, because he got benched for Tua in the national. I don't know if you remember that. He got benched for being bad at his job.
Yeah. I don't think
and then also won the title in relief of Tua because Tua got benched.
I don't think he regressed, though. Like, they just didn't throw the ball very much. He completed 68% of his passes. His yards per attempt and completion were with the league average, the high league average. He obviously didn't hit the touchdowns, but let's not forget he scored 14 rushing touchdowns. So that's the equivalent of scoring 32 touchdowns.
For fantasy, he's a cheat code. For fantasy, he could throw for 50 yards. He's going to have 3 rushing touchdowns a game.
Joe?
Yeah, I'm talking about real life football. All right, give me. Talk about real life football. Obviously, Jalen Hurts is a cheat code because he squats 7 million pounds can just.
So you're talking about real life football
for a team that went like 14
that has led
and 3.
his team to the NFC Championship game twice in 3 seasons.
Yeah.
Okay. So
100%.
Stop, because that's fucking stupid.
He's
100%.
a good quarterback.
I just don't think this is a battle worth fighting.
Can he be better? 100%. I'm not going to deny that. He took a lot of bad sacks last week.
Mm-hmm. Sack machine. Some might say.
Turn the ball over. That's fine.
Hey, well, you know what? I'm excited for the Commanders to get up 14 this week and have to see that guy throw the fucking ball to get him back in the game. I'm so excited to see that because it's not going to happen. Spoiler alert.
No, it's not, because Washington can't stop the run.
That's what you think.
Saquon ran for over 100 yards in the first half against them in the second game they played. Jameer Gibbs ran for over 100 yards and 14 carries last week.
And Jaden Daniels dropped 45. So that's all I'm ready for it. I'm ready for it. Look out. Commanders Bills Super Bowl. If it's not that, I'm not watching the Super Bowl because that's America's Super Bowl is Bills Commanders. That's America's Super Bowl.
I called Eagles Chiefs, and I called Eagles as the champs. So I'm
Listen,
good right now.
I know in my heart it's Eagles Chiefs, okay? And if it is that, it's that's horrible. All right, that's horrible.
I'll take a rematch.
Because I'm forced to root for I'm rooting for Saquon Barkley. I'm not rooting for the Eagles. I'm rooting for
honestly, my dream scenario is the Eagles go to the Super Bowl, they win the Super Bowl, and Saquon wins MVP. They put a microphone in front of him, and he says, "Thanks, Joe Shane." That's like mic drop right there.
Love it.
Are we ready to admit that Saquon Barkley is the MVP of the league? Are we
Yes.
we ready to admit that yet? Because
100%.
It's Lamar Jackson.
no. No.
I don't care about what happened this week. It's Lamar Jackson.
Okay. It's
That didn't
Saquon
even need to be
Barkley.
this week.
It's Saquon Barkley. It simply is. Josh Allen just was there in the second
Honestly,
half.
if Josh Allen plays every single game and every single quarter, he has better stats than Lamar Jackson.
100% he
But
does.
the fact of the matter is he didn't. So
But Josh Allen was just there in the second half of the game. You could have put in Mitch Trubisky in the second half. The Bills would have won that game. All right? Lamar, 2 turnovers. What happened to, I haven't turned the ball over all fucking season. If Saquon Barkley is not in that game against the Rams, the Eagles don't win.
Look, then Jalen Hurts runs for 200 yards.
No, he doesn't, because his ankle was fucking disheveled
Yeah, that's
on
fair.
that sack.
Yeah.
Yeah, that just doesn't happen. Saquon's the MVP. Josh, unless you swing big for elite rushing, just wait on a pocket passing quarterback, says you.
It's that simple because, again, you look at the stats, like guys that are running for over 400 yards. They're, what was it, Ryan? 66% of them were top 12?
Yeah. Only 9 did it.
or whatever it is.
6 of them were top 12.
Yeah. So that right there tells you that you need to chase that rushing upside. When you look at guys like Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, or Jalen Hurts, that's 10-plus rushing touchdowns alone. And then you get into the Jaden Daniels, the Lamar Jacksons, that's 800-plus rushing yards. Bo Nix comes in with 500. Kyler Murray, 500-plus. You know, even Anthony Richardson, once he figures out how to throw the football, he's going to be a cheat code. We just don't believe he's actually going to learn how to throw the football. But with these guys that are running the football that much, when they're able to combat that with adequate passing numbers, that is what you chase at the quarterback position. If you cannot get one of those quarterbacks, 1,000%, wait it out. Because all these guys that hit this year, Mayfield, Goff, Darnold, you got them hella late in your drafts. You got them after the 10th round. They were great values. Next year, maybe guys like Bryce Young, Jordan Love, if he can stop throwing interceptions. Maybe CJ Stroud gets back on track. Maybe Ben Johnson fixes Caleb Williams. Those guys are ultimately going to be the values that you can chase to get up into that top 10.
Baker and Jared Goff are going to be in the exact same spots next
Well, I was
year.
going to say, what's interesting to me with Caleb Williams is one of those 400-yard rushers who didn't make the top 12. So
Was he 400? I thought it was just under
489, almost 500 yards.
He led rookies.
a lot of scrambles, though.
And so that's what I was going to say is Ben Johnson going to fix that? It's a chicken and egg.
Should.
Like, was he running because he had to? And so we're going to see that number go down because he does seem to present some interesting opportunity. I'm going to disagree with Josh a little bit. Like, just to go back to my point, we can chase the elite upside, but the elite rushing upside is 4 guys. It's Lamar, it's Josh Allen, it's Jaden Daniels, and it's Jalen Hurts. So you can pay up for those 4 guys, but for me, just seeing that everybody else is throwing the ball 450 times, 500 times, I'm going to just continue to wait and take the passer, which is still your point, Josh. But to me, seeing guys like Anthony Richardson who can't finish a game, Caleb Williams, who, you know, it's not like he put up terrible stats, 3,500 yards, 20 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. He's the QB 16 because he looked like shit on the field. To me, I just don't know that there's as much merit to chasing the rushing upside right now.
Well, that's why I say, unless you swing big, wait for the pocket passers.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, any of those guys after like QB 6 all the way down to like Caleb Williams at QB 16, They're streaming options. They're very interchangeable.
Yeah.
All right. What I learned: pumpkins stay pumpkins.
Hey, you're damn right.
Pumpkins stay pumpkins, folks. Sam Darnold. I said Vikings Chiefs Super Bowl, and I said my one caveat. I'm going to say this, and Sam Darnold turns into a pumpkin.
Well, you also wanted the Vikings to win that Week 18 game so they could get that.
That played a massive part. But what happened in Week 18? What did Sam Darnold turn into?
Turned into a pumpkin.
A pumpkin. And that's exactly what that was the last show I was on. I said, as long as Sam Darnold doesn't pumpkin, we'll be fine. He pumpkined. Jared Goff, pumpkin. Pumpkins stay pumpkins, folks. They don't change, all right? They only rot with time. The life of a pumpkin, 1 to 6 months.
Poetry in motion.
Yeah.
The life of a pumpkin is 1 to 6 months. Sam Darnold lasted 4.
Yeah.
That's 4 more than anybody expected you to, buddy. Congratulations.
That's 100% fair. Goff kind of went the other way. Goff, you thought was turning a page, but he clearly is not, and now loses his OC. There's serious questions.
He's taking a massive step back next year. Like, genuinely, I don't know how. I'm genuinely concerned for Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Everything I'm reading says they're hiring from within, so they're likely to run the same scheme. It's just how effectively can they run it without Ben Johnson. So.
You lose a good coach. I mean,
yeah.
Kirk Cousins lost Kevin O'Connell and a good coach.
And then lost his ankle.
He's a pumpkin. Kirk Cousins is a pumpkin. They never change. Running backs. Oh, baby. My favorite position. 36.5 fantasy points separated the RB4 and the RB5. Those were Derrick Henry, Devon Achane. Everyone's favorite.
Total points.
Yep. Yeah. Everyone's favorite all-down, third-down running back, Devon Achane. Everyone's favorite. 4 running backs scored more than 300 fantasy points. That's pretty solid. Only 1 last year. And Christian McCaffrey had 100 more points than the RB2.
Wow.
Ask me how many he had this year.
In 2019.
Yeah, which was 156 more in 2019. Ask me how many he had this year.
A fraction of that.
I don't know. 0. That's what it felt like. 0.
I don't think he scored 100 points.
Over 4 games.
He didn't score 50 fantasy points this year.
I hate it here. I hate Kyle Shanahan. God. 16 running backs topped 1,000, but only 7 of those were outside the top 12 in fantasy scoring. Every top 12 running back had at least 1 receiving touchdown. Interesting, it's the first time it's happened since 2018. And one of those had less than 30 targets, Mr. Derrick Henry. You could tell he had less than 30 targets by that beautiful drop he had in the AFC divisional game. Could Lamar have put it in a better spot? Sure, that's fair. Did it hit him square in the fucking hands? Also, yes. Probably should have done that. Probably should have caught that ball. 11 running backs had 10 or more rushing touchdowns. That's the most since 2009. For those that don't know, they don't hand the ball to running backs anymore, so that's an insane stat. That's since 2000. That's like Frank Gore age. Like Lamont Jordan was in the league in 2009. If you don't know who that name is, that just goes to show how many times they don't fucking run the football anymore. Ryan, go ahead.
Oh no, my next points are going to point out your favorite stats, Joe.
Teams ran the ball. Oh, Jesus, God. Is this with everything?
No, it's just these 2.
Oh, God. Teams ran the ball 14,687 times last season.
Oh.
That's 81 more than 2023, but 83 fewer than in 2022. If you average that out over the last 3 seasons, teams have ran the football 4,687 times.
Exactly.
Over the last 3 seasons on average. So nothing fucking changed if you ask me.
However,
they scored 511 touchdowns, the most since 2020 when they scored 532 in a 16-game season. Ryan, they were dying of COVID. That's why.
I'm just saying. Lots of touchdowns.
Oh, God. Ryan, your lesson.
My lesson has been my lesson about running backs forever. Targets.
Can we call this the Devon Achane rule?
I say, and this is going to be a theme for all of my lessons from this point forward. Only 31 running backs this season had 40 or more targets, and 25 of them finished in the top 30. Again, I use top 30 because of how many there were. So there were 6, obviously, that missed that top 30 mark. They are Travis Etienne, Justice Hill, Jalen Warren, Alexander Madison, Amir Abdullah, and Austin Eckler.
Can you pause real quick?
Yeah.
Love that you have Alexander Madison and Amir Abdullah on here because we were getting questions all season long. Everyone's like, oh, Madison's getting all the carries, getting all the volume. And I was saying he fucking sucks. And then I'd have people on here tell me, oh, he's getting volume. Fuck you. That guy's dog shit. Amir Abdullah was out-snapping him at points. Go ahead, Ryan. Thank you.
Anyway.
Go ahead.
All of those guys, except for Amir Abdullah, missed at least 2 games. And when you look at those names, ETN, Hill, Warren, Madison, Abdullah, Eckler, the only real fluke to having a bad season is Travis Etienne, and he was just bad this year. But even those guys, those 6, still finished in the top 40, even though they missed games. So the long and short of it is, if you want a good running back in fantasy, chase the targets. Don't focus much on anything else. If you know a team throws to their running back, if you know a running back is a good wide receiver, chase those, and more than likely it's going to work out really well for you.
Josh, you have the exact opposite of what the lesson should be, and it's hero RB.
Yeah, I know you're very much a robust RB kind of person, Joe.
Correct.
But I feel that when you look at the top end scoring at the running back position,
sure,
it is very consistent in year to year. You have anywhere, like basically you have 4 guys that will exceed expectations. And then you have like 12 to 15 that are all in that 200 point range. It is a very consistent position, but you don't get the pop from average players at the running back position that you do at the wide receiver position. This is why I say hero RB makes the most sense. If you can grab that elite guy and then load up on pass catchers, you're more likely to have more spikes and score a lot more points throughout the year versus being consistent and leveled off, which isn't going to help you when other teams have those spike weeks.
Sure. I'd tell you it's better than hero or zero RB. That's the dumbest fucking strategy on planet Earth. Ryan, anything? I'm looking up stats here.
No. I'm definitely anti-zero RB as well. I think there is some credence into playing more hero RB. Something I think about, Joe, is for people like us who draft robust RB, where we go running back with our first 3 to 4 picks. One thing that kind of pisses me off at myself is I don't have the roster spot to take like weird flyers on running backs at the end of my draft on guys like Bucky Irving and things like that, because I paid such high draft capital early. I'm now kind of making up for the odds and ends at wide receiver. And so sometimes I will say robust RB feels a little stiff as a draft strategy, because a lot of times I have feelings about rookies at the end or younger guys at the end who are breakout candidates, but I don't have the room on my roster for them because of how my construction works. So
that's why I had more Bucky Irving this year than you did.
I was going to say, and that's why I feel like hero RB, and I've fucked around with hero RB. Hero RB is great as long as you don't
hit that hero.
As long as you don't step on the landmine. And I stepped on the landmine in my Christian McCaffrey draft this year. It's my only hero RB draft. And then I stepped on the landmine with the wide receivers as well. It just, things did not work out well early on. I had T. Higgins. I had Devontae Adams. There were just a lot of shit that went wrong in that draft, which is why I didn't win a game until like week 11. But all in all, I'm unlikely to pivot from my robust RB just because it's served me so well in the past. And Joe, I'm sure you're about to talk it up, but I will give, I think there is credence to Josh. I've started to dabble in the last 2 to 3 years on hero RB, and it's a lot more flexible, and you can build more fun rosters. Maybe not always winning rosters, but you can build more fun rosters.
I just think you see a lot of guys that finished RB1 that were legitimate, like, first and second round caliber players: Jahmyr Gibbs, Saquon, Bijan, Derrick Henry, Kieran Williams, James Cook was the back end of the second. Those guys. Josh Jacobs, I know, was mixing there low second.
Well, even Kamara was still
up there as well.
Was great. Yeah, he was the wide or RB5 in points per game.
Yeah,
I just meant ADP wise. You were still paying for Kamara coming into this year, I feel like.
No, you weren't. You were not paying for Kamara.
He was going a little bit later.
Value.
Yeah.
He was going lower. He was like 16, 17. We were talking up Kamara in the offseason for that reason. But then you have guys, again, like you're no doubters. Jamar Chase, who just said fuck you to the rest of the wide receiver class this year. Justin Jefferson, Amon-Ra St. Brown. But like Brian Thomas Jr. was wide receiver 49. Drake London, he was a low-end wide receiver 1. Malik Neighbors, wide receiver 21. Terry McLaurin, forgotten. People were just like, fuck this guy. Jackson Smith and Jigba, the third... some saw the third Seahawks receiver this season. They thought that was going to be coming into the season. I think there's more value you can grab. Ladd McConkey, 12. Like, there's guys like that. Mike Evans. So that's why I feel confident going into the heavy RB, because I can sit here and say guys that I drafted, such as Terry McLaurin and Jackson Smith and Jigba on the same team. I'm getting wide receiver 1s in round 5 and 6.
Yeah.
Where you're taking wide receiver 3s or wide receiver 5s in round 2 or 3.
And so that's where I'm going to throw Vince up on the screen here and this I think does come down to where you feel you can find talent, where Vince says he can find wide receiver 2s later on. So he's more inclined to hit running back early. And Josh, that's something you and I have always talked about is I feel like I can go out on waivers and get a wide receiver 2 any single day of the week. So I feel like I use my entire bench for running backs most weeks just because I need to have them.
Yeah, and that's honestly what we touch on every single week during the season on Wiretapped. Like, it's all about finding those pop wide receivers, finding those, spike week running backs, right? Like hitting on that 0 RB strategy by finding those running backs on waivers. That's how you ended up with a Sincere McCormick. That's how you ended up with a Bucky Irving, right? Those guys are there. It's the same thing at the wide receiver position. There were probably some people that may have dropped Brian Thomas Jr. after the first couple of weeks because
100%.
He was a rookie. And traditionally, rookies do tend to take time. And we talk about this all the time. Like, this is why we don't value rookies in redraft on draft day.
Yeah.
Because they tend to take a little bit of time to get going. So those teams that end up drafting them, they drop them. And then now you get waiver wire darlings in weeks 4, 5, 6, and 7.
100%.
And then you get the Brian Thomas at wide receiver 4. You get the Ladd McConkey at wide receiver 12.
Yep.
I just see, again, the Tyreek Hill, prime example. He was the third guy off the board this year. And I'm sitting there like, A.J. Brown, like, he didn't have
he missed a few games. But points per game, he was still wide receiver 13.
Yes, and he did miss a few games, but like you're sitting there, I'm like, all right, you took, you want to go heavy receiver. Hell, let's just go to 0 RB. You want to go, you were sitting there and like, all right, cool. I'm at the back end. I'll take A.J. Brown and Garrett Wilson. All right, well, I just took Saquon.
I had a draft like that.
Yeah, I'm like, all right, well, I just took Saquon and Jahmyr Gibbs. Like, those two guys were sitting there, and they're outperforming, outplaying, outscoring these guys. And it's just something like there were 3 receivers over 300 points.
That's the next section, Joe.
Yeah, I know. It's just the running back, like the running back class, I just think you can find better value in there. So my lesson is fuck hero RB and 0 RB, go heavy RB, because every single year I'm in a championship with that same fucking strategy. Now, caveat, you have to hit on the fucking running backs. Like, you can't, you got to hit on everything. But I had Saquon and Eckler when they were 1-2 one year. Yeah. Like, I hate drafting high in drafts because I like sitting in mid to late rounds because that's where I get my 2 RBs.
I feel like you end up getting a lot more value.
Yes. I drafted 1 this year. You want to know who I took? Christian fucking McCaffrey. The rest of my team was loaded. You want to know where I ended up? First round bounce. It's because I didn't have the value that I thought I had. My other running back was Ramondre Stevenson. Kill me. That was horrible. I hated that. That was disgusting. Receivers. Jamar Chase is better than everybody.
All right.
That's it. Tight end section now.
Yeah.
No, that was the Jamar Chase.
What's funny is Josh's notes for the tight end section are basically that.
Is Brock Bowers is better than everybody, and we can move on?
100%. You'll see.
Yeah, pretty much. Chase's 17 receiving touchdowns is the most since Devontae Adams in 2020. How many did he have with Aaron Rodgers this year? I think I can count them on one hand, I think, right?
Well, he had 8 total on the season.
I was going to say 3 of them in one game.
Against the Jags, right?
I think he only had 2 with the Raiders. So 6 maybe, 5 or 6.
Good for him. There have been 3 400-plus PPR point seasons since 2021, and they're the only 400-point scorers of the last 25 years. I mean, pass happy league, folks. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
No bullshit Ryan stat in this one, so that's fun. But as mentioned, 3 wide receivers, top 300 fantasy points. Those were Chase Jefferson, Amon-Ra, St. Brown. And ironically, none of those guys were in the top 5 overall ADP coming into the season. It was CeeDee Lamb and Tyreek Hill were the 2 receivers off the board.
I had Amon-Ra as my wide receiver 3 overall.
I was making
that's exactly
so
where he finished,
many arguments for Amon-Ra St. Brown before the season started. So
you will never catch me with any Amon-Ra shade coming into last season. This season, he will catch shade because Jared Goff's going back.
Well, and he's going to be so overdrafted because he's so good this year, and I don't like it.
There was a stretch this season, though, where Amon-Ra was just like, meh. And it was bad.
It was,
but he had like some really big spike weeks toward the end of the season that really kind of carried him.
I was gonna say, I feel like
we talked about this a lot.
I was gonna say, me and Josh fight about this all the time because he was never meh. He had a
was though.
Josh, you're talking okay.
And entering the playoffs, he had 3 straight weeks of 12 points or less.
Oh, and okay, I'll give you that because that's not. Josh started bitching about him in like week 8.
Well,
week
8 he had 8 points.
To 18, yeah.
Like, to be fair, and then in the playoffs he dropped 37 for you in week 1, and then 19 and 20 in the following weeks. So like, he did what he needed to do. But yes, going into the playoffs, he did have a bad stretch. Whereas Jamar Chase had 1 game under 10 points.
Yeah, me and Josh had a whole show about this. So.
Just fucking bent every cornerback over a barrel and said, "Here's the 50 states."
And that's why he's the fantasy MVP this year, according to Club Fantasy. So.
Ryan, you said don't overthink it. Focus on elite talent and elite quarterback.
So when I was going back and looking at my 2024 rankings, and I actually did pretty goddamn well at wide receiver. I had the same misses that other people had, Tyreek Hill, things like that. But I, for the most part, did really well. And I wanted to see what my main takeaway was. And because I do my rankings based on projections, it kind of made sense. Focus on the elite talent at wide receiver. And for this exercise, I kind of looked at that as the first round draft capital guys. And there's a few guys you can kick off that list after they look like bust. But for the most part, focus on the first round. But more importantly, focus on elite quarterback play. And if you use that as like your experiment while looking back at the 2024 rankings, you're only going to miss Jacoby Myers finishing in the top 20.
Dog.
Obviously, we thought Myers was going to be a wide receiver too this season. Nobody's going to call him elite, and certainly they didn't have an elite quarterback. And then when you look at the guys who could qualify as elite, some might have called Marvin Harrison Jr. We certainly would have called Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, DK Metcalf, Devonta Smith, Xavier Worthy. So those guys kind of fit the role, and Worthy's another one who's arguable, but they all finished outside of the top 20. But what that really means is 19 of the top 20 fit into one or both of those cups. They're elite or their quarterback is elite. Now, there are only, in my opinion, 25 or so guys that could have fit into those categories. So 5 were always going to miss the top 20. So the fact that 19 out of 20, I think we're on to something here. Like, don't overcomplicate it when it comes to wide receivers. And then when you look at the guys who missed, Cooper Kupp was wide receiver 38, but he only played 12 games. And DK Metcalf was the wide receiver 32. Like, these guys still played well enough. If you missed, you didn't miss too big on them. And then where it gets really interesting to me is I started thinking about, like, that's a great lesson, but Ryan, how am I going to get those guys? Start focusing on what you need to avoid later on in drafts. Do not draft wide receiver 3s. I don't care how good the offense is. Stay away from wide receiver 3s. Every wide receiver in the top 40 in fantasy this year was the wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2 on their team when the season started. And then when you look at the top 64, and the reason I picked that, there's 32 teams, only 10 were wide receiver 3s when the season started. And almost all 10 of them, somebody on their team got hurt or somebody on their team got traded away. This is a league where the wide receiver 1 and the wide receiver 2 are putting in the work. This is who you need to focus on in your draft. Do not get cute with weird wide receiver 3s.
The only reason I go for wide receiver 3 is the weird,
Don't.
like, no, I'm
in the event of injury. Like, that's
literally, it's like a running back handcuff.
Yeah.
Like if you took, I can't even think of like a handcuff off the top of my head, but like Mike Evans or Chris Godwin went down, and you took Jalen McMillan because he was a rookie and he was there was there super late, and you're like, all right, well, I need an 18th guy on my roster.
But even then, that first 4 weeks that Godwin was
cut
out,
him.
McMillan was nothing. Like you didn't even pick him up until.
And I understand, like Joe's not talking
100%.
McMillan specifically, but
yeah.
But again, you're thinking like I'm keeping him in case Godwin gets hurt. You're keeping the backup running back in. He could get 2 to 3 points. I kept Braylon Allen on my roster all year just in case Breece Hall got hurt.
And I'm like that with running backs, Joe. But that's the thing I've been talking about with wide receivers. I just see all the production on.
And I agree.
I'm like, I'm not going to hold on to this guy.
What I love, though, is that youth throughout 19 of the 20 inside the top 20 are elite, and Ladd McConkey is in that.
He was a first-round draft pick, right? So
no, he was a
second-round pick. Okay, you know what? So he would have been a miss then, because for some reason in my head I thought he got taken in the first.
No, it's fine. He's elite. You can say this is a safe space, Ryan. All right. Josh was wrong. I was right. Ladd McConkey's elite, and this is a safe space.
That's all we have to say. Elite.
The only reason the Chargers had any points in that playoff game, little Ladd McConkey.
Yeah.
Absolute king. We love him. Odds Ladd McConkey and Brock Bowers are both top 3 round draft picks next year.
McConkey is going to be interesting depending on whether or not the Chargers go after T. Higgins.
Yeah.
Because there's
I think if they go after T. Higgins, that only helps Ladd McConkey. So.
I agree.
There's definitely an argument.
I say we need something to tamp down his ADP, because right now his ADP is going to rise too high.
Ideally, I need them to get a receiver so that people are like, oh no, that hurts Ladd McConkey.
Exactly.
And then Ladd McConkey falls to me in the 4th round as my wide receiver 1, and he becomes my new DJ Moore, and everything's fine, and everything's okay.
Or Keenan Allen.
Well, yes, but my first guy always is DJ Moore.
Oh.
So.
You bastard. My guy is always Keenan Allen.
Well, but here's the thing. Most times Keenan Allen, I go through running back.
You got to find a new guy, Ryan. Keenan Allen's going to be 33 next year.
I will still take Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen is still a top 5 route runner in the NFL. Don't come at me. He's absolutely. Yeah, he is. King.
If Allen sticks around with Caleb and Ben Johnson,
we're going to be insufferable.
Yeah.
Also, DJ Moore, maybe, finally, has a good coach. Who knows? We're going to find out. Josh. Target big play receivers because offensive coordinators are all about the home run play.
That's in a nutshell. I mean, look at the amount of downfield throws that teams are making. I mean, just look at how explosive the Detroit Lions were. Like, that's why they traded that future first to go get Jameson Williams. He can stretch the field. Look at the Chiefs drafting Xavier Worthy, signing Hollywood Brown. Completely opened up the middle of the field for Travis Kelce in the playoffs. Yes, Joe.
Patrick Mahomes, 54th ranked quarterback in average depth of completion per target at 3.4. There's 32 starting quarterbacks in the NFL. Horrible example.
The playoff game. Hollywood Brown missed the whole season.
I thought we don't talk about the playoffs because this is a fantasy football show. I'm just. Did I miss something? Did it go in one ear out the other? What did I miss? Okay.
Anyway. 13 of 21 wide receivers with more than 1,000 yards this season finished with a yards per reception of at least 13 or more.
Yeah.
5 of the top 12 wide receivers had more than 13. And I bring this up because when you look at over the last 4 years, which is really when the passing boom has started, 7 of 12 in 2023, 8 of 12 in 2022, 6 of 12 in 2021. Now you go down to the top 24, 12 of 24 hit that 13 yards mark this year. 15 of 24 in each of the previous 2 seasons, and then 10 of 24 in 2021. If these wide receivers are able to get down the field, sometimes the targets won't play into it necessarily, but when you look at guys like Malik Neighbors, who only had 11 yards per target, but had 170 targets, and then you look at what he did at LSU and say, all right, better quarterback play. He's going to be a 14-plus yards per reception kind of guy, the same way that Brian Thomas was at 14.9 this year. Those types of scenarios are going to play into the types of wide receivers that you should be targeting in your drafts. And before you get any further, Joe, yes, Ladd McConkey was over 13 yards per reception.
Oh, don't worry. I have it pulled up right here. He's at 14. I have it pulled up right here. It's fucking it is Googled on
14.7 actually.
no, I mean I'm looking at yards per reception on Pro Football Reference is 14, but sure, if you want to give him the extra 0.7, go for it. I love that.
What I love about this, Josh, is you and I started doing projections together probably about 4 years ago, right?
Mhm.
So right after this boom, or just before this boom was about to start. And I remember, and this is why it's always good to take in new information. I remember one of my first lessons, Josh, when I write lessons to myself afterward of like things to be careful about. And I wrote to myself, be careful about giving people 13 or more yards per catch, because back then it was so abnormal that like it was easy to get handed out, but like rarely did they live up to that. And I've kind of been like shooting myself in the foot because I won't do it. But now these 13-yard receivers, there's so much more of them. I feel like I now need to adjust that a little bit and maybe avoid going over 14 because I feel like I'm getting a little nonsensical. But over 13 is, I don't want to call it a new norm, but it's becoming more normative. So
yeah, I mean, and again, it's defenses are playing the pass. That's why you have so much two deep safety, these shell coverages, which again is opening up so much room for running backs, especially the elite running backs like the Derrick Henrys, the Saquons, Jahmyr Gibbs, etc. But the good wide receivers that can get downfield are able to get through these types of coverages. It's when you're targeting the likes of, let me throw a name out there, George Pickens, who kind of shit the bed this year. When you're targeting the Christian Watsons, or maybe Jameson Williams on occasion where he's not going to catch 70% of those deep balls, right? When you're targeting guys like that, you have the issues. But when you get to the DKs, you get to the Malik Neighbors, the Brian Thomases, the Ladd McConkeys, the types of guys that this is what their game is, but they're also elite in short area, intermediate, and deep. That's how you beat those shell coverages. Yeah. Because you beat them with the sluggos and the double moves and those types of routes that keep the defenses honest. So when you target, again, it goes to your point, the elite talents, the elite quarterbacks, doesn't necessarily have to be the elite offenses, right?
Exactly.
Malik Neighbors wasn't in a good offense.
There was that. Malik Neighbors is the one that kind of made me think about this, Josh, because every human being we spoke to coming into the draft told us that Malik Neighbors was the best wide receiver in football outside of Marvin Harrison. Mm-hmm. And like they were talking this kid up that he would have been the best wide receiver in X amount of years, if not for Marvin Harrison. And obviously Marvin Harrison was a miss for everybody in this offense. But the way they talked up Malik Neighbors, and we let ourselves be scared off by shitty quarterback play. And that's where I'm like, if they have one of these buckets, they're worth targeting. So
yeah, I mean, I downgraded Justin Jefferson to my wide receiver 7 because I was like, really? Sam Darnold? Get the fuck out of here. There's no way. And I hyped up Drake London because, look, Kirk Cousins is going to hyper target his wide receiver 1.
Exactly.
I texted you guys this earlier, or maybe I didn't. I texted Melina, one of our writers.
Yeah, your other friends.
Drake London finished with 158 targets, 100 receptions, 1,271 yards, and 9 touchdowns. My projection for him was 157 targets, 100 receptions, 1,276 yards, and 9 touchdowns.
He did exactly what you said he would.
There you go. And Justin Jefferson did not because I downplayed his quarterback.
Yep.
So you're always going to have the ebbs and flows. You're not going to hit on every lesson learned, so to speak. But when you can take these and apply them when we do our projections, we can mitigate some of these mistakes.
I say, Josh, I think that even speaks more to the process. I love that you bring up London because, like, it's easy to be like, well, London did it, but his quarterback play was shit. So he outplayed his quarterback play.
And he's also a very different type of wide receiver than Justin Jefferson,
yeah,
which I think is why a lot of people were like, Drake London is not going to do that. He's not Justin Jefferson. But I also didn't stat him out for 15 yards per reception.
Yeah.
He's a 12, barely a 13-yard reception kind of guy. I gave him 12.8. It worked out great.
You know what lesson you should learn there from the receivers, Josh? Just listen to me, because I called Drake London from his rookie season.
College days, baby.
I watched
one wide receiver that I was very right on, and I'm going to bring this up because Vince wants to rub it in. Hey, Ryan, what'd you think about Deebo's season?
He's horrible. He sucks. God, he's terrible. I was with you, Joe. I don't.
Oh, you guys were both. I'm
Hate
taking this
Debo.
L by myself proudly.
Good. Bye.
You guys both told me I was dumb. You were both absolutely.
I say that every
fucking
week.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I had
the numbers from 2023 were appetizing. I saw progression. You guys saw regression. Obviously, 2/3 of this show was very right.
I also said don't go draft Brandon Ayuk.
And I was with that. Brandon Ayuk screamed.
I was not. I was very in on Ayuk, but aside from starting slow, obviously getting hurt.
Hey, Josh, who did I say to draft though at the wide receiver position? Just asking.
I don't like McConkey shit.
Top 12 as a rookie, bitch. It's go him. Oh, love it.
I love George's lesson though.
My little boy.
Just draft dudes you like watching on TV. You'll make your Sundays way more enjoyable.
100%.
That right there is fantasy football in a nutshell.
I loved watching Nathan Peterman. Why did he not get more playing time?
No, but what's funny is, like, to George's point, like, I fucking hate Aaron Rodgers. So, like, it hurt me to have to root for, like, Garrett Wilson and Devontae Adams at points this year because I fucking hate Aaron Rodgers. And, like, for them to win, he had to do well.
And they didn't win.
And you know what, though? When you look at Rodgers' final stat line,
horrible.
It really wasn't bad.
Nah. It wasn't good.
No, the win column wasn't good. I'm saying like his overall final stat line on the season.
Well, I mean, that kind of goes
to worse.
That's the bar. That's the bar.
I'm just at like 3,897 yards, 28 touchdowns. Like most quarterbacks would kill for that stat line.
And that kind of goes to my point what I was making with Caleb Williams. Like, that doesn't sound like a terrible stat line, but like,
he was bad.
Everyone else just performed so much better. Like,
no, it's true. I mean, Geno threw for 4,320 yards, but he only threw 21 touchdowns, so he finished as a QB 14.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers literally had the exact same season as it is last season in Green Bay.
Yep.
He had 200 more passing yards, 2 more touchdowns, 1 less interception. That was it.
Firing your defensive head coach halfway through the season is not
a
good idea.
But Aaron Rodgers wasn't the problem, guys. Remember Aaron Rodgers 2018, 2019? Literally the exact same fucking season. He just threw 7 to 8 more interceptions.
Yeah, but I mean, you look at Rodgers last season in Green Bay, like he actually had better numbers this year than that year, and he finished as a
lower
worse
completion percentage.
Well, it helps that they were behind in every fucking game, and
he had to throw.
Fourth quarter.
Yeah.
He had 42 more passing attempts that season. Lower completion percentage. I believe he probably ran the football more.
He finished as QB 13 that year, whereas he finished as QB 16 this year.
Because he's
goes
bad.
To show you the difference in quality of quarterback play.
Well, yeah, he's bad. I think that's just
what's really interesting. I haven't looked at his weekly numbers in a while, but like QB 16 would make you feel like he was a good super flex option. I can't imagine anybody was happy with him as a super flex option. So
he had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games under 200 passing yards this year.
I'm looking at the stats right now. 9, 15, 21, 11, 14, 18, 15, 17. Like if I'm getting this from my quarterback, I'm pissed.
Like horrible. He didn't run the football at all. No. He hasn't been a weapon with his legs since.
Is a statue.
No, he's an absolute shell of himself. Speaking of shells of themselves, the tight end position as a whole, everyone should give up. Here's my new rule. Everybody gets Brock Bowers. That way we're not drafting tight ends, and everybody's happy with their tight end pick. Okay.
I didn't know if you were going to jump into Austin's combined tight ends and wide receivers, so you don't have to worry about them anymore.
There's a top 3 for tight ends. It is Bowers, Kittle, McBride, and then everybody else.
Yeah.
Trey McBride doing this.
What a season.
Without finding the end zone realistically. If he had, how many touchdowns did he have total? I know he had that one random fucking fumble touchdown. What do you have? 2 or 3 touchdowns?
3 total. Yeah, the 2 in week 18 and the fumble recovery touchdown.
Okay, so realistically for most fantasy football players, he scored 1 touchdown.
Yep.
And it wasn't even a receiving touchdown. It was a fumble recovery touchdown.
Yeah, it kind of is rushing.
If Trey McBride,
and there are leagues that didn't count that, by the way. If your league does not count fumble recovery touchdowns, it did not count. So
let's just say for most people, Trey McBride had 0 touchdowns this season.
Yeah.
If Trey McBride scored 8 touchdowns, 6 even,
5 or 6.
I feel like 6 is like a baseline that you would expect maybe from an average tight end, right? From a guy like McBride, 8 or 9, I don't think is out of the question to be asking for. Trey McBride is the tight end 1 by like eons over Brock.
Only about 25 points. Oh wait, yeah, because he scored 2, about 25 points.
That's eons over Trey McBride.
Yeah,
that's eons over Brock Bowers. That's insane. Now I'm not saying that's going to happen because Kyler Murray, Cardinals, that's just bad. But that's insane to think about that. Trey McBride is that guy. He's just not scoring touchdowns. And yes, Kyler is a clown. Absolute trash. I agree with you, Vince. We've always said 10 PPR points per game is the standard. 11 hit that mark in 2024. 2 more hit 9.9. Suckers. Bitches. 11 in 2023, 8 in 2022. It's pretty much been 11 or 12 since 2020 outside of 2022 where there was 8. 2 points per game separated the tight end 3 and the tight end 4. Those were Brock Bowers, David Njoku, respectively.
I did the points per game side. That's why Bowers was 3.
Yeah. So. No real positional advantage this year, and that is why you wait to draft the tight end, because where was Brock Bowers being drafted, Ryan?
I think it was as the tight end 12 or 13 at one point and in round 11 or 12. So
correct, because I got him in round 11 as the tight end, I would say probably even 14 at that point in my draft. Just now, obviously, rookie tight end, that's not going to happen for a while. But where was David Njoku going?
A lot. Yeah,
probably 2 rounds.
Going right
2
around
or 3
there.
rounds before that, yeah.
Yep. He was the tight end 4 in points per game. Where was Travis Kelce going?
About 10 rounds before that.
Yeah, correct.
Tight end 5. Ooh, big miss.
Not good. Absolutely not good.
Yeah, we talked about that last week. Travis Kelce came up in the least valuable players.
Player, yeah.
In back-to-back seasons.
Too. I mean, you grab those guys.
You called Laporta. I was not high on him either, but yeah, you called Laporta. It's the we
when he chased touchdowns.
Well, we said it last year that Travis Kelce was a miss.
We talked about, we watched the old legs not look great last year for many, many games, and
especially
there were all the jokes about Taylor Swift working those legs out a little bit too much for him, and all that stuff. But like, the writing was on the wall for Travis Kelce. If anyone's watched this show for any amount of years, you know I was the biggest. I didn't own Travis Kelce in a single league that was not a dynasty league. I was not when I could get Brock Bowers in round 11. I'm not a fucking idiot. So
literally for free, realistically, get the tight end 1 for free. But yeah, Ryan, you what was your big lesson?
So I wanted to take something that we could look at next year to figure out how we're going to draft these tight ends. Cause I agree. It's time just to wait on these guys. And I think what I found was weak wide receiver 2 are going to lead to a higher target share for good tight ends. Cause obviously there's a lot of teams with weak wide receiver 2s, but when you look at the top 12 by team, it's Las Vegas, Arizona, San Francisco. I'm talking about the top 12 tight ends this season and the teams they play for. Las Vegas, Arizona, San Francisco, Miami, Kansas City, Baltimore, Washington, Detroit, Pittsburgh, Green Bay, Cleveland, New England. Almost every one of those teams had a weak wide receiver 2 situation. The 3 that you could say in the preseason did not were Las Vegas, San Francisco, and Miami. Because Las Vegas had Adams and Jacoby Myers. San Francisco had Ayuk and Debo, presumably. Miami had Hill and Jalen Waddle. Las Vegas trades Adams. San Francisco loses Ayuk, and Waddle just plain wasn't good this year. The door opened up that when you look at all 12 of these teams, there was a hole at wide receiver 2, and that hole was filled by the tight end, which is a funny sentence to say out loud. And then when you I said it needs to be a good tight end. Of those players, the only one we would really question about the talent at the beginning of the season was Tucker Kraft, because nobody thought he was even the starter. We thought it was Musgrave. You could maybe question Zach Ertz because of his age, but we knew Zach Ertz was a talented tight end. You just didn't know he was going to still do it. looking at it this way, there's only 2 outliers, and that's Kyle Pitts, who is a perpetual outlier in fantasy football, and Dalton Kincaid, who may very fucking well be the new Kyle Pitts, because I am very worried about Dalton Kincaid after this season.
Yeah, he is 1,000% on my not ever drafting list.
I was about to. I don't want to put Pitts there
I was
because
so high on Kincaid this year. Fuck that guy.
I don't Kincaid. There was no wide receiver 1 really.
Yeah, I said that.
That's why I was so high on him.
Well, and I'll be fair. I like Khalil Shakir. And where I was taking Khalil Shakir, he finishes wide receiver 3.
And keep in mind, Amari
expecting.
Cooper didn't start the season there, folks. So
exactly.
It was Shakir,
so
Eon. So.
I'm going to give Kyle Pitts some slack here. We all love Darnell Mooney. We knew Darnell Mooney was going to be a good wide receiver.
I'm just talking about general NFL fan.
And that's fine.
And that's why not one of us had Kyle Pitts as our starting fucking.
And we all had Darnell Mooney. That's exactly what we had.
Yeah. But yeah, so focus on these teams with weakness at wide receiver 2. And if there's a solid tight end and a bad wide receiver 2, that's probably the right person you can pick at tight end. And basically, I can sum up all of my lessons learned. If you paid any attention, chase targets. Do it at tight end, do it at wide receiver, do it at running back, and you're going to be very, very happy. Targets are opportunities, and they lead to points, plain and simple in fantasy football.
Yeah, your whole point with the weak wide receiver 2 is like our good buddy Andrew Cooper with Fantasy Alarm. This is what he touts all the time with the tight end position. If they are not first or second in the pecking order on their respective teams,
bye.
They're not worth it. They're not worth it. Don't chase it. Even a third on the target depth chart. Not worth it unless the team is throwing 650 times.
And then, Josh, I still don't know because teams threw enough this year, and I pointed out the wide receiver 3s were ass this year. Like, if you're not
they really
one or
were.
2.
I mean, Gesicki was a prime example of, in Cincinnati where Joe Burrow threw a ton. He was tight end 13 on the season.
Tight end 13.
Only 8.3 fantasy points per game because he scored only 2 touchdowns.
Well, what I was going to bring up is to extend Ryan's wide receiver 2 theory. We said Gesicki was a play when T. Higgins was out of the lineup.
Correct.
And he was
that's exactly when he was
play
a play
when
Correct.
T. Higgins was out of the lineup.
When did
that's actually a good point. I need to start using this for my stream of the week. Just find the top 5 wide receivers that are hurt, and those are the tight ends to play.
When did Kate Otten start showing up?
As soon as Chris Godwin went down.
As soon as Chris Godwin went down. Kyle Pitts had weird pop weeks. Then you go Isaiah Likely, Jawan Johnson, Tyler Conklin. It starts falling off, but you're at tight end 17, 18.
But Isaiah Likely's such a weird, he kind of proves into this because Rashad Bateman wasn't a thing for most of the season, and so they had.
He wasn't a thing for the start, and then Zay Flowers gets hurt, these last few weeks, and we've seen more Isaiah Likely. Like when they lose one of their wide receivers, they run more 12 personnel. Now you've got Andrews and Likely on the field at the same time, but they were using Likely more as the main target, and then Andrews was just the tight end guy or the touchdown guy. Like he had 11 touchdowns this year, which kind of leads right into my point. Don't chase touchdowns. This is how you fell into the Sam Laporta trap this year because he was a tight end 1 last year with 11, 12 touchdowns. Nobody else scored 7. And now Andrews comes in at tight end 6, I believe he finished 11 touchdowns. Yes. He's probably going to fall off because do you really expect Lamar Jackson to throw 41 touchdowns next year?
Well, they probably won't even throw to Andrews after this week.
Yeah. Bye.
Yeah, right. So that's kind of where I'm at with the tight end position as a whole. Like I'm with you, Ryan, 100%. Chase the targets. That's what's going to be there. That's what's the separator. If they're not first or second in the pecking order, they're not worth really a draft pick. They're hardly worth a flyer unless that second or first guy in front of them goes down and they ultimately move up in the pecking order. That's when you stream that tight end option.
Exactly.
But don't fall into the trap of chasing touchdowns. When you look at the touchdown scorers at the tight end position this year, George Kittle's always good for touchdowns. He has proven that he will score touchdowns. The surprise was the 1,100 yards because everybody else got hurt this year.
Well, Josh, it also reminds me of, I think it was the week before tight end Sunday or whatever the fuck they call it, where I was making the jokes, tight ends only scored 7 touchdowns total, the whole position that week. And then, of course, the next week they come out and score 30.
National Tight Ends Day.
National Tight End Day, yeah. I don't know why my brain was not figuring that out.
That's okay.
Yeah.
But, I mean, 7 tight ends this year scored 7 or more touchdowns. But look at this list. Pat Freiermuth, Sam Laporta, Tucker Kraft, Zach Ertz, all with 7. Jonnu Smith, George Kittle, 8. Mark Andrews, 11. I would be willing to bet that 3 of those guys actually score 7 or more next year of that particular list.
Yeah.
So when you fall into the trap of chasing touchdowns, that's when you whiff at the tight end position.
Here's my lesson. Don't draft tight ends. Now, I took that lesson into this season, okay?
Yeah.
Here's why you don't draft them. David Njoku, 9th round. Brock Bowers, 10th round. Hunter Henry, 21st round. Jonnu Smith, 22nd round.
Yeah.
Cade Otton, undrafted.
You can stream the position. 100%.
You can just... I was telling these guys, in my work league, 14-team league, I am the only one without a tight end by like round 12. Probably even earlier than that. And everyone's around me looking like, are you going to take a tight end? I'm like, I am so sure of myself that none of you are taking this guy. I'm taking him with my last pick. Jonnu Smith.
Yeah.
There you go.
You want to know why? Because none of us had faith in Jalen Waddle, and we said they're missing a tight end.
Yeah.
Well, let me further illustrate. I don't have week 17 cooked into this, but my last chart that I put together for stream of the week, if you just took my advice, if you took the guy I told you to go get, he put up the tight end 4 points in PPR this season. And
Like,
if you looked at my article of 5 guys and picked better than me,
Tight end
I had tight end 1, 269 fantasy points. The real tight end 1 had 262. So I beat Brock Bowers in my article.
The guy that has been Travis Kelce end of the first round for the last eons has literally built a tight end 1 of undrafted guys.
Yep. Not even undrafted. Available in 50% of leagues after waivers every single week.
Yep.
Why are you taking a tight end before double-digit rounds? There's no reason.
I'm done with it. Like I said, Travis Kelce, I had a love affair. It's over.
There's something to be said for the
Shut
average
up.
fantasy. No, this is the only point that I'm going to make. There's
You're not
something to be
active.
said for the average fantasy
Sure.
manager that doesn't want
Set it
to
and
play
forget.
the streaming option, that just wants to set it and forget.
Sure.
That is at this point,
You're
because you were like, this year, there was no positional advantage, how
No.
it's been in years past. That is legitimately the only reason to take Bowers, McBride. I'll even throw Kittle into the conversation, who I never ever take early because with him it's so
Injury
ebbs and flows.
concerns. Yep.
Well, that, but also with the rest of the team,
In the
he's always
offense.
the 4th option. So yes, take those guys early. That's fine. Set it and forget it. Everybody else, if you're not streaming, you're doing fantasy
You're
wrong.
doing it wrong.
Yeah, if you guys are watching this show, you hear me say the guy every fucking week. So you don't even have to do that much work. I'm telling you, and then I'm dropping an article. So if you're watching this show, if you take nothing away, don't fall into the Brock Bowers trap. And it sounds ridiculous calling it a trap. Do not fall into the Brock Bowers trap next year. So,
Well, you were taking Travis Kelce. I was taking Drake London.
yeah, exactly.
Well, you were
To
taking...
be fair, this was a year ago. I did not do it this year because of
No,
Brock
I know.
Bowers. I
But-
fell
but-
in love with Brock Bowers.
But that's my point is,
You're saying the
in
world.
general,
Okay.
while you were taking Travis Kelce, I was taking Josh Jacobs. I was taking Nico Collins. I was taking James Cook. Guys who did just a tiny bit better than Travis Kelce this year.
Exactly.
So yeah, don't just don't do it.
Yeah, I wrote the article on why Brock Bowers could very well be the tight end 1, and I took my own advice. If I give you guys good advice, I take it. If I give you guys bad advice, I fucking take it. And trust me, it goes both ways. But
I was going to say, those articles, you hit on Bowers, you hit on Gibbs this year.
yeah, I say it's the only 2 I wrote about.
What'd he
this
miss on?
year.
I think those are the only 2 he actually wrote
Well,
about. This.
Tebow Samuel. No matter,
So
I
is
didn't write an
that
article.
list longer?
Uh,
Ryan, don't put anything in writing. What if that's the lesson
Oh.
you need to take. My lesson.
I
Don't
own
put
my-
anything in writing.
I own my bad takes every.
I
single
also
week.
own my bad takes.
You
You
do.
just can't
You do.
find them because they're not in writing.
But no, I Josh likes to make fun of me. I ended my Jahmyr Gibbs article on why he couldn't be the RB1, and then I look like a fucking idiot because he was.
Finished
So,
as the RB1.
Yeah.
I mean, in fairness, he was the RB2 in points per game, so you really weren't wrong.
Exactly. But no, like I said, I saw the writing on the wall with Brock Bowers, and I saw this weird conundrum in fantasy where in Dynasty we were calling this kid generational. And then all of a sudden he goes to the Raiders and we don't want him. And I'm like, okay, this doesn't make sense to me.
Hey.
And those are the things I look for, is shit like that doesn't make sense. So
thank you, because he's on my Dynasty team. Along with Ladd McConkey.
I don't think I have him on a single Dynasty team. That is not how drafts went for me this year.
One of the Dynasty teams that I have that actually won me this year championship ring, I had Bowers and Ladd McConkey. So
I will say,
but I also have Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase and Josh Jacobs.
I actually think I talked to
I
you.
have Garrett Wilson and George Pickens.
I will say I talked to you guys, I think, about this in the chat while it was happening. 2 years ago, I thought there was such weird value on Trey McBride where I kept trading back into the back ends of third rounds and fourth rounds. I have so many Dynasty teams with Trey McBride because I'm like, he was the top tight end drafted. Why are we just letting him fall? So
I have him in 3 leagues. One of them, I got him after his down rookie year for Daniel Bellinger and a 3rd round pick.
It's a good trade.
Yeah.
I will say, I also have Rashee Rice. He just died because his quarterback decided to tear his ACL.
I have so many Rashee Rice shares that I don't know what to do with.
Hey, Ryan, what school did he go to?
Wide receiver U, baby.
Wide receiver U, SMU, baby. And you want to know where our favorite SMU receiver finished this year?
Wide receiver 11?
15. Cortland motherfucking Sutton, baby. Yeah. Dog. Love it. George, we'll end you on this. Who's a guy we cannot leave drafts?
This is next week's show.
This is next week's show.
Oh, cool. I'm just here.
Yeah.
Fun.
It's our 2025 breakouts.
Yeah. Oh, look at that.
Give us a week, George.
Give us a week, George.
George.
We'll have the answer for you.
Not Saquon Barkley. Because no guy has repeated as RB1.
Not Travis Kelce.
Ever. And Jahmyr Gibbs is the RB1. No. Saquon Barkley was the RB1.
Week 18 doesn't count.
Jahmyr Gibbs put up 46 in a week that Saquon he had to rest because we don't want him to break the record. Fuck God. You, Nick Sirianni.
Yeah, I'm still mad.
I did the Eagles playoff record, though.
I say I did make a joke that if you don't think Saquon Barkley was treating this playoff game like what he would have done in week 18. So.
I hope
he can actually set the all-time record for rushing yards in a season, regular and postseason, this week if he hits 148.
Okay.
I'm still mad.
Does that count the Super Bowl? So if they just win, it'll definitely.
Yeah. So, what I'm saying is, like, if he rushes for 148 this week and they lose, he has the all-time record.
Has it.
But if he rushes for 148 and the Super Bowl, he's going to obliterate the record.
That's awesome.
Unless he gets
Terrell
negative.
Davis from 97, I believe.
Fucking
Terrell Davis.
Playoff Terrell Davis.
Yeah, those are the only 2 seasons ahead of Saquon right now. It's the 2 Terrell Davis 2,000-yard seasons.
Well,
97, 98.
You know who's about to break that next year? Ashton Genty. Ashton motherfucking Genty. Ghostface Killer.
Which we didn't even bring this up in the running back section, but I was surfing Twitter. Dane Brugler, who is one of the draft scouts with NFL.com, I believe. Or no, The Athletic, excuse me. I wanted to get that right. He said there's 30-plus quality running backs this year. This is arguably the deepest
in the draft
running back class. Yes.
Okay.
So I've been
one of the deepest running back classes ever. You're going to see that many more committee backfields.
Yep.
So get ready.
Not for Ashton Genty.
I'm in the starting phases of my rookie rankings, and I ranked 22 running backs and only 19 wide receivers, Josh. So, like, the running backs just felt more natural to put into the rankings. So
they really do. This is really not a strong wide receiver class. It's certainly not a strong quarterback class. This draft, by all accounts, is running backs and tight ends.
Yeah, I always try to rank 60 guys for that 5-round, 12-team league. So.
Yeah, there's a kid from, I think it's Bowling Green, Harold Fanian Jr.
Harold Fanian Jr., baby.
He just broke every FCS record.
Dog.
1,500 receiving yards.
And he's like, I think he's massive. I think he's 6'7".
Big. Dude.
He's
Yeah.
huge.
Another guy to watch out for. He reminds me a little bit of Theo Johnson. I don't know if he's declared yet. Arande Gadsden Jr. coming out of Syracuse as well is a lot like Harold Fainin. So
we'll say, depending on where Travis Hunter goes, Mel Kiper and his receding hairline have Travis Hunter as number 2 overall going to the Browns.
Yep.
If he goes to the Browns, he's going to play receiver. He's not going to play DB.
I agree.
They already have their DBs. I don't think he goes that early, but the first true receiver off the board they have going, or he has going, is
Ted McMillan.
Yeah, but say his full name because it's way cooler.
Isn't it
Tedairoa? I don't know.
Tedairoa?
That's a
when we had
name.
John Laub on the wide receiver show last year, that was who he was pointing out.
Yeah, he said it. I think the TAI actually makes a soft sound, so I think it's like Tesharoa is how you pronounce it. I don't know though. I have to go look it up. So
even better. And the next receiver off the board, Emeka Egbuka.
Yeah.
And Luther Burden.
I've been hearing a lot of good things about Luther Burden.
That's not a cool name though. Luther
is a pretty
Luther Burden the third.
Hold on, let's be fair.
The third.
Luther Burden the third is a cool name. Next to Emeka Egbuka, he can go fuck himself. All right, that is not a cool name. All right, I'm waiting for mobility to get drafted as a DB. All right, that's his name. Pig Cage. I'm waiting for him to enter the league. God, I love the all college football team name. We'll break that down in our Stars of Tomorrow at some point. Exactly. I'm just gonna break down the General Booty when he comes into the league.
Obviously,
he's a quarterback. General Booty.
That's the problem.
Yeah, he ain't coming
because he's cheeks. I also I get angry when nobody in the chat acknowledges my lower third. Marky Mark in the Fumble Bunch is fucking hilarious, and neither of you guys recognize neither until I say something to you.
I just popped on the stream. I was on here for like 5 seconds before.
And you should notice it immediately.
I love that you call it your.
That would require me to pay attention to you, Joe.
It is my lower third. Marky Mark.
I treat you like you treat the show sheet, okay?
Non-existent? Yeah.
I don't ever look at those. And what's funny is Joe even told me he was stuck backstage coming up with something funny.
And he didn't even acknowledge it.
I was like, all right, cool.
All right, get us out of here.
We're all just too used to each other.
Marky Mark in the Fumble Bunch, and nobody got a laugh.
It's good.
All right, next week we're doing a show. It's about whatever George asked. Guys, you can't leave with drafts next year.
Breakout.
Sure, 2025 breakouts. Can't wait to miss on all of them. I'm so excited.
Probably.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. And then from there, it's Stars of Tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken, right? I don't fucking know ours.
We'll have after the breakouts next week. We'll have the Super Bowl prop bet show.
Oh, that's what it is. I was like, that felt early. Yeah.
Yeah. Which I'm working on confirming the guests for that. And then we'll roll into our free agency previews.
That's what it is. And then I'm stupid. So I'm just here, guys. I cannot stress it enough how much I'm just a body and a mouth in front of a microphone right now, here to make you laugh on a Wednesday evening. So, ladies and gentlemen, this has been No Punt Intended. Josh, Ryan, myself. You can follow Club Fantasy on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Club Fantasy FFL. The URL is clubfantasyffl.com. Always remember, defense wins championships, offense wins fantasy football. We will see you next week.